Good morning all of you. I hope every one of you will be fine and healthy. And I welcome you to my channel where I bring you a detailed analysis on any ongoing issue of current affairs. So as you all must have read or have gone through the media reports that UN recently completed 75 years of its existence, and the Honorable Prime Minister, he gave a speech virtually and addressed the United Nations General Assembly. And in his speech, he very effectively put forward the demands for the reforms in the structure, response and process of this global body. But before moving on to that part, we will first understand what is UN and how it originated, what are its different organs and what are their functions. Then we will go for what are the rationale for the UNSC reforms in the present world, and whether India qualifies as whether it fulfills the criteria for being a permanent member or not, and what do we need to do in the future to become a permanent member of this United Nations Security Council. So beginning the first part, so first of all we need to understand what is an international organization. So an international organization is a body with a formal procedure. It can be any body. For example, IMF, World Bank, WTO. So any organization which has a formal procedure and 3 or more member states is an international organization. So moving on further, the first international organization in a very informal way, it originated after the Napoleonic Wars in Europe, that is in 1815, and that was the Concert of Europe. So this organization, it gave Europe 100 years of peace until 1914 when the First World War began, and this organization as a result failed in giving peace to the Europe, the European continent. Then after the First World War in 1918, there was again a demand for establishing an international organization to bring peace to the world. And this time the demand was put forth by the President of the United States of America. So the President Woodrow Wilson, in his speech to the US Congress in 1920, put forward his 14 points agenda. In this 14-point speech, he called for an international body, and such a body was established that was called as League of Nations. But as you all know, the Second World War began in 1939, and so this body also failed to prevent another world war, or it failed to give peace and security to the world. There were certain reasons why this organization failed in fulfilling its mandate of giving peace and security. First of all, the US and USSR, which were bigger powers, they were not its members. And second thing, it was dominated by victorious countries. So the League of Nations failed as the Second World War began in 1939, and it came to an end in 1945. So now coming forward to UN. So the name United Nations was put forward by Franklin D. Roosevelt, the President of USA, in 1942, and 51 member states, they met in San Francisco and they signed a document which later became UN Charter, bringing into existence United Nations on 24th October 1945. So it is headquartered in New York, USA. Also, going on to further, India was one of the founding members, or one among these 51 founding members of this organization. So today you will find out that India, which was one of the founding members, is not being represented fully, or not being represented at the one of the most powerful body of the UN, that is the United Nations Security Council. So let's move on to the objectives. So what are the objectives of this organization? So United Nations organization was well established with an objective to bring peace and security, or to promote international peace and security, to uphold the international law. To uphold the international law, whether in the field of maritime, whether in the field of environment, whether in the field of human rights. Also, to uphold the or to promote sustainable development. So you all must have read about the Sustainable Development Goals, which were adopted in 2015 by the United Nations, and they are supposed to be achieved by 2030 by all the member states. These goals include gender equality, ending marine pollution, etc. So what other objectives this organization fulfills is that it promotes humanitarian aid, it promotes human rights, it promotes democracy. So moving on to the membership. So United Nations is a truly global body. When I say that it is a truly global body, that means it has a near universal membership. It has 193 member states, plus it has 2 observer states, that is the Holy See and the Palestine. These are non-member states. So though they can participate in the proceedings of the UN, they do not have much rights as compared to the member states, that is the nation states. So at present it has 193 members, and South Sudan was the last country or the last nation to join UN in 2011 as a member state. Also, one thing that we need to understand is that these members, they are admitted in the United Nations by the General Assembly on the recommendation of the Security Council. So now we would understand better how and why Palestine is only a non-member state, because its effort to become a member state of the United Nations has been thwarted by US again and again. It has again and again threatened that it will use the veto power if it tries to become a member state of the United Nations. Okay. So that was the introduction part. Moving on to the organs of the United Nations. So the United Nations, it has 6 organs, and the first of them is the General Assembly. So the General Assembly, it has equal representation of all the member states. That means one member has one vote. So this is not like International Monetary Fund, where you have a quota system, where countries are given voting rights according to quota. So this body gives equal representation to all the member states, and it elects the non-permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. So India has been elected recently as the non-permanent member of the UNSC, and it received 184 votes. So you will see that out of 193 we received 184 votes. So near unanimous representation for India, or unanimous support to India. The second most important organ of the United Nations is the Security Council. So this is one of the most powerful organs of the United Nations, also called as global policeman. So why it is known as global policeman is that this organization is tasked with responsibility of international peace and security, that is to establish international peace and security. And for this purpose, the member states of the United Nations, they are obliged to implement the decisions and the responsibilities. For example, if United Nations, it decides, or the Security Council decides to take or to put sanctions on certain individuals or nations, then every country has to implement those sanctions. So that is why we call it the most powerful body, or the global policeman. So this Security Council has 15 members. Out of them, 5 are permanent members and 10 are non-permanent members. So at So from 2021 to 2022, India will be going to be a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. So what are the other permanent members? So the 5 permanent members of United Nations Security Council are, starting from the North American continent, so USA, going on to Europe, UK, third is France, coming on to Eurasia, that is the Russia, and Asia, that is China. So these are the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, and being permanent members, they enjoy the veto power. That means that they can veto any resolution of the UNSC, whether it is on any matter. So for example, when USA tries to impose unilateral sanctions, or it tries to impose arms embargo, other types of economic sanctions on Iran, they are thwarted by the Russia and China by their use of their veto power. When they use their veto power, that sanction does not pass and does not come into existence or force. The other 9 are the 10 non-permanent members. They do not enjoy this veto power. Although the support of 9 members is required to pass any resolution in the United Nations Security Council. So in that manner, the non-permanent member also enjoys certain amount of importance. So in order to pass any resolution, you will need the support of 9 members out of 15. So although these non-permanent members, they cannot veto, but their support is necessary in order to pass any resolution. Coming on to the third organ, that is the Economic and the Social Council. So this is an organ which deals with the economic and the social issues. For example, promoting sustainable development, financing sustainable development, policy integration, capacity building of the member states. So it has 54 members, and these members, they are elected by the United Nations General Assembly for a tenure of 3 years. So this Economic and Social Council, it has 5 regional commissions. One for Latin America, one for Africa, one for West Asia, and another for, there is Asia Pacific, and other for Europe. So these are the 5 regional commissions of UN ECOSOC, or the Economic and the Social Council. So the next organ is the Trusteeship Council. So the permanent members are the part of this organization, or the organ of the UN, the Trusteeship Council. Although it disbanded its operation in 1994 because its purpose was completed, because it was given the responsibility of administering the trust territories, or to develop the trust territories and ensure development of self-governance in these states. So when Palau became independent in 1994, it disbanded its operation. So moving on to the next part is the International Court of Justice. So the International Court of Justice is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. It resolves disputes between the member states or provides any kind of legal advice to them. So it gives legal advice also to other UN bodies. So it has 15 judges who are elected for a tenure of 9 years, and they are elected by the United Nations General Assembly and the United Nations Security Council. So there is also an Indian judge in International Court of Justice who was appointed in 2012. You might want to know his name. He is Justice Dalveer Bhandari. So he has been appointed again in 2018. Still continues to be a judge in International Court of Justice. And last is the Secretariat, which provides secretariat functions or which performs secretariat functions. For example, it promotes coordination among all the organs, coordinates the organs and functions, provides administrative secretarial staff in order to let all these organs function effectively. So, General Assembly, Security Council, Economic and Social Council, Trusteeship Council, and the Secretariat. So they are all present in New York, but the International Court of Justice is present in Hague, Netherlands. That is the one difference between these organs. So these are the 6 organs of the UN. We read them thoroughly, their functions, their membership, who elect their members, and now moving on to the next part, that is the rationale for the UNSC reforms. So this demand is being raised from decades that the membership of the UN itself be extended. And when we talk about the membership of United Nations Security Council, the demand is to increase the not only the permanent members but also the non-permanent members. So you must be knowing that till 1965 it used to have 11 members. After that its strength was increased to 15 members. So what is the rationale for the reforms? Why reforms are required in the United Nations Security Council? So the important thing is to understand that UN was formed in 1945, and as the Honorable Prime Minister pointed out in his speech, that the problems and their solutions, they were different in that time and they are quite different during the present times. So the world was bilateral or the bipolar. When I say that world was bipolar, that means there were 2 important powers, that is the US and the USSR. They were 2 superpowers and the world was bipolar, that is divided between 2 superpowers. So how the present world has changed. So the geopolitical realities of the present world has changed. How? So the world from being bipolar, it became multipolar. So there are multiple powers today. For example, China, India, Russia, Brazil, South Africa, these are the emerging powers. So the geopolitical realities have changed. Earlier these powers, they used to play an important role in the world affairs. Now India, China, Brazil, South Africa and Russia, they are playing an important role. So their importance also needs to be reflected in that body. Second thing is that the decisions of the United Nations and especially the United Nations Security Council, it reflects the vested interests and the values of Western countries or the developed countries. As you can see that US, UK, France, all these were victorious countries in the Second World War. So they were able to grab the opportunity and became the permanent members. And most of the decisions over these years, they reflect the interests of these countries. Whether it was attack on the Iraq, whether it was attack on Afghanistan, attack on Libya, also the recent sanctions on the Iran. Third is, it lacks equitable representation. When I say that it lacks equitable representation, it means that all the member states or all the regions of the world, they are not properly represented in the United Nations Security Council. So for example, Africa being such a large continent, it has no membership. Latin America being again a large continent, it has no membership in the permanent seats of the United Nations Security Council. So it lacks equitable representation. Asia, being such a large continent, again has representation only from China. Also Russia comes in Eurasia. So Asia is also not well represented into it. Again, the United Nations Security Council is divided today in most of the cases into 3+2. That is, on the one hand you have US, UK and France, and on second hand you have Russia and China. So whenever a resolution is brought by these three countries, US, UK and France, it is thwarted by Russia and China. For example, on Syria, the Syrian regime is being supported by Russia and China, whereas US, UK and France, they are against the Bashar al-Assad regime and they want to topple his government. And this has been going on from at least a decade. And as a result, this country, Syria, has been plunged into a kind of civil war. There are so many countries present that there is no solution in sight in the future for the establishment of the peaceful government or the peaceful society in this country. So you can understand how the interest of these countries, they are reflected in these bodies. Next is that UN has been unable to address issues like terrorism, nuclear threat or nuclear proliferation, epidemics and civil war, climate change. So these are the emerging challenges before the world. And the UN, when it acts as a global body and it is not able to address these issues, then there is a question mark on its functioning. So for example, the Honorable Prime Minister, he pointed out in his speech that where has been the United Nations in the COVID-19 epidemic? What role it has performed? Why it has not fulfilled its responsibilities as a global body during this epidemic? Next is so when we talk about reforms in the United Nations, so these reforms are not only to expand the United Nations Security Council, but as the Prime Minister pointed out, the reforms needed to be in the structure of this body, the entire United Nations. Second is the responsiveness of these bodies. Its response shall not reflect the vested interest of any particular country or a group of countries. Its response should reflect the global reality or the global interests and its processes. For example, the use of veto power in the United Nations Security Council. There is a need for adopting more or bringing more transparency, addressing the democratic deficit of these bodies. So that was all for the rationale, that why reforms are needed in the United Nations and especially the UN Security Council. So the next thing is that when we say that India should get a permanent seat in the Security Council, then India definitely has some characteristics which are necessary to become a permanent member. And over all these years, a certain unanimity has been achieved in the countries of the world that a country which wants to become a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, it should have certain qualifications. For example, it should be a major military and economic power. So, does India satisfies this criteria? Yes, India is a major military and economic power. India is a rising country. Second thing is that it should represent a large population. So India represents 18% of the world population. So when you deny India a seat in such an important body called United Nations Security Council, that means you are denying 1/5 of the global population from representation. Third thing is that it should be a democracy. It should protect human rights. So, you know that India has always been, or since ages, and especially after 1947 independence, India has been a democracy, and it has been the largest democracy of the world. Also, in India, human rights are very well protected with the presence of different kinds of rights called fundamental rights or the legal rights. There is a body which works in the field of the human rights, that is the National Human Rights Commission. It looks into the allegation of the violation of the human rights and provides adequate compensation to the affected individuals or the victims. Next, moving on to, there is a unanimity that the coming countries or the future representation in the UN Security Council, mostly in the permanent or non-permanent seats, should be of the developing countries. Small and medium-sized countries. So this is one of the demands being raised by China. Whenever we talk about India being given a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council, China comes with its own agenda. It says that there should be more small and medium-sized countries. There is no consensus on India's membership. So India alone should not be given the membership of the United Nations Security Council permanently, whether in the permanent seat or non-permanent seat. Then again, why is India deserving for a seat is that India is one of the largest contributor to United Nations peacekeeping mission. UN peacekeeping missions. So these peacekeeping missions, they are organized by the United Nations in countries which are affected by the civil war. So India has been one of the largest contributors to United peacekeeping missions. So India continuously sends its soldiers, which are called blue berets because they wear blue helmets or blue helmets. Till now, India has participated in around 50 of the peacekeeping missions of the United Nations. Also, Indian soldiers have lost the largest number of lives in these peacekeeping missions. So, India is a deserving country. Also, India is a regular contributor to UN budget. Okay. Although our share is very less, but we have been regular in our payments. So US is the largest contributor to this United Nations organization. Our share is around 0.7 or 8%. But we have been a regular contributor. Although India does not have deep pockets like these countries so that we can contribute more, but India is helping in other ways like capacity building, like providing free vaccines to the countries in Africa, Latin America, providing free medicines. Also, that is why we are also called the pharma industry of the world, because the vaccines as well as the medicines that we provide are the cheapest in the world. So we have been contributing in other ways, if not financially, but in capacity building. We have a large soft power. So what could be other provisions, or why India is more deserving? So India is the true representative of global south or the developing countries or the post-colonial nations. Also, India believes in the principle of rules-based world order. So what do you mean by rules-based world order? As you all know that recently China has increased its activity in the Indo-Pacific region, and it has occupied certain areas and have developed them into artificial military structures in the Indo-Pacific region. And as a result, it is now denying the freedom of overflight and navigation to the other countries of the world. So that means it is not playing by the rules of the global order. But India believes in the rules of the global order. So India says that there should be freedom of navigation. Freedom of overflight. Freedom of communication in the global sea lanes of communication. So Indo-Pacific is a very important communication trade route. So it needs to be a global common rather than being controlled by a single country. Also, India believes in the world peace, prosperity. It believes in multilateral system. So India has always supported the concept of peace in the world, prosperity of the entire world, and the multilateral system, that is the presence and emergence of multiple powers. So India would favor a system where multiple powers are working in the entire world for the benefit of this global society. Also, India's presence in UNSC especially would make it more representative, whether economically, culturally, and geographically. Okay, so these are the reasons why India is more deserving of a permanent seat in the Security Council or more representation in the other UN bodies. So the next part is what steps India has taken over the years in order to ensure that it gets the permanent seat, because our efforts, they are continuously being thwarted by China. So there are challenges to our membership, permanent membership in the United Nations Security Council. What are the challenges? So the challenges are, so the greatest challenge to our bid for permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council is China. And what are the points it forward by this country? That is, first of all, it says that India is not a party to the NPT or the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty or Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. So these are the two treaties in the field of nuclear non-proliferation. So China says that India is not a responsible member because it has not signed either NPT or CTBT. I will make a separate video on what NPT or CTBT, what these treaties are. Again, it says that there should be a package deal. India should not be alone granted a permanent seat. So what do you mean by package deal? There should be unanimity on the increased representation, and there should be unanimity on the increasing the representation of the other countries, because it wants to accommodate the interest of the countries like Pakistan. So this is one of the reasons why it is thwarting India's bid. because it also wants Pakistan to get a permanent seat. If India gets, Pakistan should also get such a seat. It also says that there is no unanimity in the world over representation to India in the permanent seat. Next challenge to India's membership, it comes from a group headed by or represented by none other than Pakistan, and that is Uniting for Consensus. Or Coffee Club. So this is a club, or this is a group of 40 odd countries like Pakistan, Australia, Spain, Italy. So they are against veto power. They are against expansion of the permanent seat in the UN Security Council, but they are demanding that there should be more non-permanent members. So you see that Pakistan is again found its way in how to stop India from becoming a permanent member. It has become friends with these countries which are leading the demand that there should not be expansion of the veto power. Next challenge for India is next challenge is that there is only oral support for India's membership. By 4 permanent members. So they have already supported, whether it is Russia, US, UK and France, they have already supported that India should become a member of United Nations Security Council, and because it would better reflect the present geopolitical reality or the present world reality. And they have also recognized that India is a responsible member and deserves to become a permanent member. But all this has been oral. So there has been no progress on the ground. Okay. Also, there is no unanimity on the representation on which countries should become the permanent members in the future. So for example, in 2004, India along with Japan, Germany and Brazil formed this G4 group. And these countries, they support each other's bid for permanent membership seat in UNSC. But one thing that we need to note down is that India's bid or India's demand for permanent membership is being thwarted by China. Argentina is opposing the bid for Brazil. Russia is opposing, and Russia and China, they are opposing the demand of Japan. And Germany is being opposed by Russia and other European powers. Also, one other thing to note down, that both Japan and Germany, they are not developing countries, they are developed countries. So this group, although they support each other's membership in the Security Council for permanent seat. But there is no unanimous representation, or there is no unanimous support for these countries whether who will represent which region. So these are the challenges that we are facing presently in our bid for the permanent seat. So now let's see what the Honorable Prime Minister he mentioned in his speech to the United Nations General Assembly. So as you know that United Nations has completed 75 years. So he was addressing the United Nations General Assembly session virtually. So United Nations General Assembly, it meets annually every year in September, where these heads of the state they address the United Nations General Assembly. So what did the Prime Minister say at this assembly? So he pointed out that the solutions as well as the problems which were faced by the UN in 1945, they are quite different from the problem and the solution that the present world is facing. Also, he questioned the absence of UN, of United Nations, or its non-responsiveness. Or its non-responsiveness towards the COVID-19 epidemic. So he asked where was the United Nations when the world was dealing with the COVID-19, or it was dealing with an epidemic. What has UN done over this time? He also said that there is a need to bring change in structure, processes and responsiveness of United Nations. He said that change in the United Nations, its functioning, its structure, its responsiveness is the need of the hour. Okay. He also pointed out how India has been a very responsible member. He said that when India was strong, we never exploited other countries. We never became a colonial power. So, and when India was weak, it never became a burden on any other country. So, we have been very responsible. Also, responsibility in what? Responsibility in being a country which supports peace and prosperity in the world. Responsibility in being a country which supports the peaceful resolution of disputes. Responsible member being in the sense that we are a regular contributor to the UN budget. Responsible in the manner that India is one of the largest contributors to the UN peacekeeping mission. So India has been a very responsible member over these years, and it respects the world order, rules-based world order. Okay. He also pointed out that how India has contributed through its soft power. India has been the largest contributor of vaccines as well as medicines to the world, and we have also contributed medicines to the more than 150 countries during this pandemic. So that is why India is also known as the pharma industry of the world. He also promised that whenever a vaccine is found for the COVID-19, India would share, or India would produce it on a mass scale and share it with the entire world. It will provide its vaccine production facilities. It has built a cold storage infrastructure which will be useful in sharing this vaccine with the entire world. So these were the main points which he highlighted during his speech in the United Nations General Assembly, where he pointed out that India deserves to be a member of this reformed UN structure, and it has certain characteristics which make it a very prominent contestant for being a permanent member of the UN Security Council. So what changes would India bring if it becomes a permanent member? If becomes permanent member. So the first is that the paralysis of the UN or paralysis of UNSC. I explained that how UN Security Council is divided into 3+2. Could be resolved. So when India would be in this structure, India can resolve this paralysis and this division of the UN Security Council into 3+2. That is US, UK, France on one side and Russia and China on the other side. So more proper solutions could be provided to the problems across the world. India would support the peaceful resolution of disputes. It would support a rules-based world order. So in that way, China's adventurism, whether in case of Ladakh or in the Indo-Pacific, could be checked. Also, it could lead to the adoption of CCIT or the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism, which is a resolution put forward by India in 1996 but still hasn't been adopted by the UN. So it could lead to the adoption of Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism, and it would lead to better counteractions against terrorism. Also, India has always been a supporter of globalized world. So our long-standing principle of the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which we have followed over the years, and Sri Swami Vivekananda's speech in Chicago, so they point out how India has been globalized. It has been global from the centuries. Although the present concept of the globalization it has evolved over the last century, but India has been a long-standing supporter of the globalized world. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We support the peace, prosperity and happiness of all in the world. So you see how important India's membership in the United Nations and how India can effectively contribute to the United Nations Security Council if it becomes a permanent member. Also, in the last, I would like to discuss that India recently became a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. That is for 2021 to 2022. This is the 8th time India has become a non-permanent member of 8th time UNSC non-permanent member. So India's profile is surely going to rise in the coming days when our tenure begins in 2021 and 22, where we are going to play a very responsible role, taking principled stand on the issues, whether in the Indo-Pacific, whether in the Syria, whether in Libya or any other problematic situation in the world. Also, India during its tenure would support this multilateral system. So as you all know that bodies like WTO has been paralyzed by the actions of a single country, that is USA. But India believes in the multilateral system, that these multilateral organization that should continue to function for the benefit of the world society. So India will support the multilateral system and the rules-based order. So these are very important terms. So they have been mentioned clearly in our manifesto, which we put forward for becoming a non-permanent member. And as I already mentioned that India received at least 184 votes. So out of 193, India has received 184 votes for becoming a non-permanent member. So you can see how unanimous support India receives in this body, or how it enjoys such a goodwill. So during our tenure, India would also get a peek into the closed door meetings of the UNSC. Where issues of the world importance are discussed. And as I already discussed that any UNSC resolution, it to be passed, needs to be supported by 9 members. 9 members support is required to pass a UNSC resolution. So recently the United States of America, it wanted to impose the arms embargo in Iran, which was thwarted by other permanent members. So India would ensure that not only the unilateral sanctions are avoided, but responsible actions are taken. So there is a doctrine called responsibility to protect. Responsibility to protect the country or the people of that nation from war, civil war, or any kind of harassment, etc. So we have seen that US has used this provision to attack Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, and all these countries today, they are facing a terrible situation, whether they are facing the problem of radicalization, civil war, or emergence of dictators, or governments being supported by USA, or puppet governments being put up in these countries by the United States of America. So India says that when we use this provision of responsibility to protect, there should be a responsible protection also. You cannot misuse this provision. When you will use this provision of the responsibility to protect, you will responsibly protect the people as well as the country from plunging into complete anarchy. So you can see how we can play a more important role even as a non-permanent members. Surely I believe that India's profile is going to rise in the coming days, and with such an effective speech which the Honorable Prime Minister has delivered, and with the will of the people of India and our characteristics and the features as a country which has such large economy, which has such characteristics like regular contribution to the UN peacekeeping mission, being such a responsible country in the world affairs, we are surely going to get a permanent seat in the UN Security Council in the near future. Also, when India needs to gather more support for its membership. So recently the G4 members, they decided that if these permanent members, they want to give representation to us, then they should do that in a limited time frame. And second thing, not only limited time frame, that there should be text based negotiation. So this would ensure that reforms which are being discussed over the decades, they become a reality, and this body, which is called a globalized body, would get better representation through giving more or accurate representation to other countries. So that was all from my side on United Nations. I hope you have got a better grasp of this topic over the Security Council reforms, its introduction part, and the speech of the Honorable Prime Minister. So we have to be positive. We have to be positive that one day, we being united and putting effectively our demands, will definitely get this UNSC permanent seat, because we are such a responsible country. Okay, so this was the end of the lecture. If you would like to share any comments, or you would like to post any complaints, any suggestions, you are free to post it in the comment section. So I will meet you again with a new topic on the current affairs. Till then, take care.